to open it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. First thing on the agenda is the minutes from September 23rd.
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Steve and Dana here with us today. So if we move down to business, first thing we have the letter we received about the Monday delayed openings. Not sure if he's a resident or not, either way it's a regular player of the golf course. Sent a letter to us and the selectmen about our recent change to have delayed openings on a Monday. I'm not so sure we should have, my own personal opinion, I'm not so sure we should have jumped into this right away with such short notice to our playing customers. One of the questions I had when we first discussed this 2 weeks ago was I would have liked to have seen, how much play do we normally have from 8 a.m. till 11 a.m. on a Monday before making this kind of decision, and we ended up making the decision.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it's more involved, especially with the pass holders and other people that come that time of the day every Monday. I didn't realize that was I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you.
Has that been researched, actually? $31,000 you lose on the Monday
It'd
morning?
be interesting to see how he calculated that.
That's what I'd like to, I'd like to know.
I think he's interpreting it based upon his past purchases with his 6 to 8 guys. I sent an email to the committee. I didn't bring it with me, but on Mondays we typically have 30 pass holders that play every Monday between 8 and 11. He is one of a group of 8 that plays consistently. He wants to be one of the first 3 tee times whenever he plays, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. But he plays weekdays, and he likes to be the first, second, or third off the box.
Does that calculate to actually $31,000?
I calculated it with, in my estimation, was higher than that, but I incorporated the entire group of pass holders. Worst case scenario, obviously, not saying that that's happening, but what is our worst case scenario? And it's if all those guys walk, it's because this doesn't work out for them, which probably wouldn't happen, but you do have to consider worst case, middle of the road, and a conservative approach. So these guys do buy two pass books a piece, roughly.
When I proposed this because there are certain particular maintenance activities that we are not capable of doing in the course of play under the playing conditions that we currently have. That would be to verticut our fairways, that would be to slice our greens, that would be to top dress our greens, that would be to verticut our greens. I'm sure the players who are out there playing don't appreciate verticut clippings all over the green because I can't clean them up because they're hitting the ball into the green as I'm running the verticut mower across the top of it. There are certain things that we need to do on the golf course that can't be done in the presence of play. That's why that was requested. It is a standard practice in the business. Most places have the entire day. I thought the 3 hours would be sufficient for us to at least get something done so then we can pick at things in pieces and not disrupt them with play. But I understand folks' concern, but at some point we have to have a concern for the future health of your golf course and the improvement in playability. Ed has been sending out some responses that he's been getting or viewing on Facebook. And one of the comments there is about slow greens and soft greens. Well, I can't get out there to top dress. I can't get out there to verticut. I can't get out there to roll because I've got one antique roller that dies half the time, 3/4 of the way through the rolling process. So in order for me to get out there and do some of these things that will improve some of the issues that people are questioning or have, commenting on, I need some extra time. And it's not only me, I mean, anybody sitting in this chair would be requiring extra time.
And excuse me, let me interrupt, and maybe if you had more personnel, you could get that done in a shorter period of time. Right
You could
now-
get it in- you
but
could
right
get-
now, you're short.
Yeah,
You're
well, I
short
mean,
and-
not only that, but you look on a standard Monday, the minimum number of people we need to have to prepare the course is 8. That includes changing the cups, cutting the tees, cutting the collars, approaches, cutting the fairways, cutting the greens, pulling the tee blocks, emptying the trash, blowing the divot off the tees, so on and so forth, straightening ropes and what have you. With those 8, that doesn't leave any room for coming in behind them and doing anything because there's no one else to do it. And currently, right now, I mean, with our staff, that's what we've been able to do during the course of the season. In the summertime, we have 1 or 2 extra laborers, younger people, so we're able to do the bunkers 5 or 6 days a week. Right now, I'm lucky if I get to do them on the weekends because I just don't have anybody to do them. Bunker edging, there's nobody there. I mean, like I told you the last meeting, besides myself and 3 kids who work in the summer, and Kevin, I'm the youngest guy at 61. So I'm not gonna put a 75-year-old out there edging a bunker.
Steve, I have to interrupt you there because Mr. Isaac and I been talking to you for several months, probably even years, about bringing your staff up to snuff, about hiring people, put out there into the schools and try to get people so we can get a reasonable staff. We've been talking to you, but nothing has happened over there.
Of course it
Nobody's
has,
getting
man. I
hired,
put
they're
out,
just
I put
retiring
out to
and
the
leaving.
schools,
They're
I
just
got
retiring and
0.
leaving.
The only place I got a response from 1 person was at Bristol Aggie. If you don't believe me, you can call the people over at Bristol
I
Aggie.
believe
I'll
you.
give you her name and her email
Excuse me.
address.
I believe you.
Well, you just sat there and said that you see no progress, and
I haven't
I've
seen
done
nobody else
as much
there.
as we can.
There's nobody there.
Because you're not paying enough, Manny. They're
Oh,
not
is that
going
what
to
it
come
is?
work for me at $13.50 when they can go work at McDonald's for $15 an hour.
Well, McDonald's only can take so many people. Can't take them all.
Well, there's Walmart, there's Target. Man, I'm out there looking. Believe me,
Well,
because
we
my
also-
back can't take
well,
it anymore.
So
I'm trying to fill those
But we
positions.
also talked to you about that when you go out and you send a resume, if you looked at it, and then we could determine what price we would pay this person based on his experience. Haven't we discussed that with you about that?
Yes,
Yeah.
in regards to a second assistant or somebody
No,
of
we
that
even said
nature.
about the help.
We did not discuss that about a groundskeeper.
I think, Manny, we just came up last meeting when you weren't here, that was brought up about researching pay wages in a municipal public.
That's another agenda item.
Right.
But that's part of this issue. But this is something where you are missing the boat on doing agronomic practices that are going to bite you in the butt down the road. And like I said, if I had 15 people, you might be able to do some of them early in the morning and get away and pick at it that way.
Right.
But we don't have that, and right now, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, we have to have the equipment to be able to do it. I mean, if you folks feel that it's not a thing that we can do, then that's your decision, and we go on. But like I said, I mean, I just cannot understand that Acushnet River Valley is the only place in the world who can't do anything that is standard practice in golf course maintenance and running a golf course straight down the sheet. I mean, I'm not limiting my experience to here. I've worked in Arizona, I've worked in Connecticut, I've worked in New York. But again, if you feel it's something that's not appropriate or not within the feasibility of our structure, then that's fine, and then we move on and we continue to try to do what we've been doing. And I'll have to hop out there.
We've never done before, and now we're going to.
No,
we're doing
these are
them?
things that we've been able to do at times in the past
Right.
because we had extra people. And you go back, I forget when it was, John, when we had the four those 4 kids that come,
They came for 4 years.
and they came for 4 years.
Right.
And after the first year, they knew how to do everything we needed to have them do, and we could send them out as a unit with one person supervising them, and they worked fine. And it worked great. And if you go back and look, I mean, about the time that they all decided we went to college, which is good, because they worked through high school and even some into college, the pool dried up. Nobody came. I mean, I had one kid worked for a day and said it wasn't for him, and the other two, the other 2 people who actually expressed an interest worked this year. One of them's in high school still, so she works on the weekends, and the other one went to school at UMass Amherst, so he's gone until he's out of school.
That does seem to be a trait with this new workforce, because I've even had kids veer off and go work at Target and Walmart or somewhere else and leave my side of the operation. So I think it's a different mindset with the kids. But my curiosity was if these were tasks that had been performed previously in previous seasons, and we had done it without using half a Monday to do it. So
Well,
I'm
it's
just trying to wrap my head around
yeah.
what the responsibilities are, what the time frame is, and what we're going to get out of that time versus the lost revenues that will incur. There's no doubt we're going to lose money on it. That's-
I just want to say, my immediate hindsight thought on this was, not that it's not a good idea, did we just jump into it too quickly without enough notice to our regular customers? So let's back up to when I did ask when we thought we wanted to do this, and we thought maybe we were looking forward to next spring. Well, we could advertise, it could be on the website, it could be on when people are buying their passes, say, hey, we're looking at schedule change next year.
Mhm.
So maybe if there's a group of retarees that plays every Monday and they like to play, well, if they've got plenty of time, maybe they can play on a Tuesday or something. So,
Well, can't they have the first tee time at 11 o'clock?
Right.
or they could do it a little bit later, depending on their own schedules. Who knows? Maybe they work in the afternoons. You don't know. This time of year, if you don't tee off by 11, you might not even get 18 holes in, right? With the sun coming down early. So I'm just thinking that again, in the big picture, is it a bad idea? Probably not. Did we jump the gun a little too quickly in doing it without enough notice? Yeah, and I know the season's starting to wind down. But are we taking off some customers who are regulars, like, hey, out of nowhere, you're taking my Mondays away from me? If I were a regular
And they
Mondays
just bought
player,
new pass books because it's October. They just bought in for next
One of
season.
your groups that plays every single Wednesday is some good friends of mine. And I can see that, I just know that they'd be able to take off if you took their Wednesdays away from them.
Mhm.
What days do they play? Monday, Tuesday, no, Monday, Wednesday?
This group, they play, they're on Monday, Tuesday, and they would have been on Friday this week, but we have an event on Friday, so they won't be on Friday. But they usually
But they don't complain about that.
He didn't
when
write
they
a
come
letter
out.
about the event then, did he?
If you had an event on Monday, they wouldn't play Monday either.
Right.
Unless it was
That's
the
that's
afternoon
sporadic.
shot.
That's not every Monday, and
Yeah.
so. And it is known with our customers and clientele, they know June and September we're geared towards outings because that's when they come. That's when the outings request those dates, and that's when we put them on the schedule. That's what they want. When somebody goes to your facility and they want a date for a wedding, you don't tell them, hey, why don't you try the 15th? No, we want this date because that's what's significant to us. And so that's what you try and give them. So that's what we do too.
I just think, like Dave said, we just jumped the gun on this, and it needs to have a little more research and actually see where it stands. Some of that stuff, Steve, that you do, just to make a comparison, we're $31,000 we're losing supposedly. Oh, was that?
Somebody's saying you're losing $31,000. I'm not going to base any.
Let me bring that $31,000 part. I asked Dana to pull, and he pulled for me the 12 Mondays that are left for the rest of the year. And he pulled them from last year, the busiest year we had.
Mm-hmm.
For the 12th month, all of Monday, total sales for greens fee was $16,100. Of the morning specials, it's $52. It was at that time, was it 9, still 50? We didn't increase price then, right?
No.
It was $9,900 for the special. The Twilight, which comes at what, after 11 or whatever?
I think last year I kept it at noon. I didn't move it.
it was 4,600. So from 8 to 12, there were 9,900 bucks worth of greens fees. That's it.
For what? For the 3 months?
From October, for the
Fall.
12 weeks left.
Yeah, so
I mean, they're talking about the
Pass
$3,000 is over that.
yes,
Pass
he's
holder.
talking about the overall
for the
pass
1 year.
purchase.
Yeah.
Correct.
Pass holder play for the 12 weeks, 18. Period.
$18.
18 players. That's it.
For 12 weeks.
12 weeks. And it's obviously rain, frost delay, you name
Yeah,
it,
yes.
whatever. But
Well-
that's what we're facing, all right?
Yeah. It's just something, I think we can work something out. I mean, it's just that we would like to be able, you know, it's always been drilled in my head, never settle for mediocrity. And I always try to do something more. And this is the next step. This is the next improvement that's going to attract more people and eliminate some of those concepts. If we feel we don't want to do it and we feel we want to stay where we are, that's fine. If we want to stop now, I mean, let's face it, the first day got rained out and next Monday's a holiday. So, I mean, if you want, as David said, maybe we should, you know, take a step back, make a, you know, come up with a presentation, a better plan, so that can be put out at the beginning of this, you know, the season or whenever you want to do that. That's fine. I just think it's something important to consider, and it's really become a, you know, I haven't verticut a tee, and I verticut my tees once a year. The grass on my tees is the same as on the greens. You stand on the back tee on the second hole, and it's like standing on a plush carpet. So just don't have the time
And
to get
today,
stuff
today
out.
we were playing, I was playing, and the guy is in front of me and is behind me, and he's drilling the fairways. And he's running the machine back and forth as we play.
Well,
it was not-
did you enjoy that?
It didn't bother me.
I don't know. I mean, I
I mean,
stood out there the other
you-
day. You know, after we aerated greens, some of the plugs on the 11th green were wet, and they encased, and I wanted to clean them off. So I took the hose up there. It took me 35 minutes to hand water that green because the play was just one.
Oh,
right
this-
after the
this-
other,
this
after
was
the
not
other,
the
after
greens.
the other.
He was doing the fairways.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the play. It's just, you know, you
Sold
go
out
out
every
there now.
day.
But he
it's
was
sold
not
out
drilling
every day.
plugs, he was just drilling hole, was dry.
Yeah, he just making a hole like
Oh.
the guys who did it on our fairways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody's playing.
Yeah, that's
Everybody-
not, see, that's not pulling a cord, that's not disrupting you, except when he's in, you know, he's in front of you, or he's
Yeah.
behind you, or the machine's going da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, I seen him. I run one guy and he was by himself with the thing in the back of him, and then was driving it and make him. Then if a ball was next to him, he would stop. You hit your ball, and then we go and he starts again.
Are you
But-
proposing this as a temporary thing through the end of the season? Are you looking to make this a regular thing through an entire season? Because there's different parameters that have to be discussed so that you can kind of get a perception of what it is you're willing to sacrifice for whatever it is you're looking for.
Well,
Let me explain what I'm looking for. At the last meeting, I asked Steve if he has been top dressing the greens. He said, he hesitated somewhat and said, well, through June I have, and portion of July.
First 2 weeks in July.
At that time, he said portion of July. So I'm thinking, that's 2 months without top dressing. That's an issue. Then I get the report from Mel Lucas. It said, you're not, basically what he's saying is the greens are in pretty good shape, but there are signs, there are issues facing you, and that you need to top dress the greens. Now, and obviously the reason, something I've never learned anything about at one time, back in the year 2000, was the word thatch. I didn't even know what the hell it was. We had a consultant at that time we're faced with renewing Johnson Management's contract. And so we brought a turf consultant in to go through the whole thing. I'll get more. What the hell I did it? I got the report in front of me anyway. It came out in year 2000, and it says that the guy hasn't been doing his thatch, removal of thatch removal, and the greens are getting real spongy, and you got an issue. And here's Mel saying you looks like you're getting an issue, and it's really because conversational. I'm quite surprised that Mandy and I have met with Steve on a regular basis, and he has brought forth the fact that he hasn't been top dressed. That's another issue. But we need to deal with the thatch buildup. And the suggestion is, we have to dry jet, aerate, and do those things to get the thatch level back down. And that was the point of my recommendation, that we delayed the opening until 11, excuse me, and try for 2 months and see what Steve can get accomplished, to see how it turns out. You gotta protect the greens. You absolutely have to protect the greens. And you gotta top dress them once a week, Steve, every 10 days.
Normally, we can top dress every 2 weeks throughout the season.
Right.
Unfortunately, like I said, the unfortunate thing about top dressing and the efficiency of top dressing and so on is first of all, making a top dressing application, getting it worked into the canopy. And of course, the best time for you to get that accomplished is during the active growing season.
I know.
Because you have to get it out. You got to get top, in order to work top dressing in, it has to be dry. You can't work wet top dressing in. So I could go out there at 7 o'clock in the morning and top dress the greens. If it's not dry by 8 o'clock, then I'm sitting there dragging a brush over it in the middle of golf on a green as opposed to fairway or tee. But I normally what this would enable us to do is normally I would verticut first. Verticut, cut the green, verticut, blow the clippings off, top dress, and brush the top dressing into the verticut slits. You can get it worked in better that way. Next time around, you verticut in an opposite direction. So one time you go 11 to 5, next time you go 7 to 1, then you go 12 to 6, then you go 9 to 3, and you can get the sand worked in better that way. Or I can take the spiker over top of it, top dress it, put the spiker on the Sand Pro, run the Sand Pro across, take the spiker and push it in, but I still need to drag it to get it worked into the canopy. So if you think about that, that's somebody mowing the greens, that's somebody top dressing the greens, that's somebody running the spiker, and that's somebody running a drag brush. That's 4 people. What we've been doing of late, and the reason why we couldn't do it further into July, those poor people ended up being 2, possibly 3, if Norm didn't have anything busy in the shop. It was Kevin and I. But Kevin and I are also changing the cups in the morning, so we can't do it right away. So we get back on there, and then it's just not. There just isn't any time to get it done. I mean, like today, for instance, Kevin was able to go out and start and fertilize fairways. We fertilized 1 through 11, 18, 8, and 18. Because there was nobody there, the wind wasn't blowing, we got a head start.
Steve, according to what Ed said about not doing what you were aerating and all that, with the greens deteriorating, it would probably cost more to repair the greens.
Well, what's going to happen is
losing money as far as players.
Well, what's going to your greens?
Eventually, the greens will be jumped.
Well, what'll happen is they'll get soft. The ball marks will be worse than they currently are. The equipment will scalp.
That's what I'm saying. It'll cost us more to repair them than what we would lose.
Well, what it's going to cost you is you'd have to be, if like Ed said, that report came in 2000. I think it was 2001, 2002 or so. you know, we talked about it, we were successful in getting the thatch volume down and turning it around. About two years ago, we're starting to get to the point now we're starting to come back again, so we need to start being a little bit more aggressive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Money, I'm thinking about money-wise. If it's gonna cost us more to keep repairing the greens than what we can make on 2 or 3 hours on a Monday, where do we go from there?
You're gonna start to lose golfers too.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Now that
Well,
gets-
Sure.
Well, you gotta catch 22
Well, that's what I'm
either
saying.
way.
Well, it's always,
That's why I
it's,
suggest-
What about another question? if you
it's
don't
always
mind?
that way in this.
What about if we just have, instead of 3 hours, an hour and a half, 2 days? I mean, that would help to bring the starting time down. Would that help?
Well, any additional time would help. I mean, you know, I like to do all 18 greens at once, but if I could do 6 one day, 6 the next, and 6 the third, I'll try it. But 95% of the time, somewhere in there, it's getting wet. So my top dressing sand is wet. The green surface is wet. It's not going to work in. It's going to sit in the top. You know, like today. I mean, today would have been a perfect day to do it. And the other issue that we do have, especially at this time of year, and I've got a whole computer full of pictures, is hurricane home lights got to hit some of the surrounds on these greens, or we're going to have even more problems. Trees are just getting out of hand with the shade. I mean, there was shade on the 4th green at 12:30 this afternoon. 12:30. The right-hand side of the 12th green had not seen shade all day, and still not at 12:30. So some of that, and I think Mel probably mentioned it in there, and I know Mr. Mungem mentioned it, some of these openings like down on 8, the putting green, and it would help us with the frost delays on some of the greens because they're in shade and the frost doesn't go anywhere. But
So what are you suggesting, that we should have links all through the course?
no, there is strategic places where you need to remove a few trees, and I guarantee you 95% of the people won't notice it. But that's another story. But like Dana said, I mean, it's a catch-22 because we have to make money, but we have to do these other things, and you're always going to have a disruption. I mean, you didn't, you know, when you had to clean out the kitchen and degrease it, you didn't have the restaurant open, right? So you had to lose some business, but you had to get that done in order to be able to.
I don't have that problem because I don't work every day.
Oh,
So
well,
we have-
you don't
we
work
have
every- so
these
you get, so you get a day, well, we don't have that, we don't have that luxury.
Take some Mondays off.
But I understand the problem.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, like you said, maybe
I
an
just
hour.
we just want to try, and Ned and I talked this very lengthy, and then the committee also here, is we want to know what's gonna happen in the cooperation that we can do, work together to make sure that we have enough personnel there that we can run that business like a business. We're not doing that. And that's what is Pete is in his mind, because we go, we say things, we sit down, we plan things, and God damn it, they never get done. And that is the thing that goes up and down my spine, and the same thing to him. And he comes and he tells me, I'm gonna quit because I can't do whatever, and I'm going, we gotta come to an agreement that we're all can work together. But we're not, we're suggesting, we're trying to listen, we're trying to project the things to be done, and they never done. And I can go example after example, so I don't push me because I won't, not to bring them up, but I can narrate them. And that's one of the things that this committee's got to fix. When we make decisions and we come here to get it approved and we go implement them, they have to listen.
Well, I don't remember us not listening, but if I remember correctly, these are the first 3 golf committee meetings that we've been at in over a year.
Maybe longer.
But
Maybe long.
It's been
yeah,
crazy.
but we have one every other week I meet with you, and every
That's not
other
a-
week I meet with them.
Yeah,
And that's what we have a problem is in those those weekly meetings.
well, I don't know what didn't get done.
Oh,
I mean, you know,
man, and don't push my tongue here, we're on TV.
so, you know, if something didn't get done, something didn't get done. We know about it, but I'm not quite sure what didn't get done.
We'll find out some more down the way if we get time.
Steve, how
I got
how
plenty that
many?
didn't get done, but then again,
I got a question.
yeah.
How many employees at a course this size is considered enough?
Depending on whether or not they're full or part-time, you're usually looking
Alright,
anywhere
let-
between
let-
10 to 15 people.
So 10 to 15 full and part-time?
Yes,
Or
a combination of the two,
All right,
because
and
most
what do you
people can't
have
afford 15.
right now? 6?
Right
Just give me a
now, we
ballpark
have, let me see, I gotta go around the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, we have 2 high school kids that work Saturday and Sunday mornings.
All right, let's not count
So
them.
don't count them.
So you got
We've
now
got
you-
one person who works part-time Monday mornings and Wednesday mornings for 5 hours.
Can't count it.
So can't count him. So you've
Down
got
to 5.
one person that, so we've got Dick, we've got Al, Everett, Conrad, myself, Norm, and Kevin. That's it.
So the bottom
Alan,
line is, all this stuff that, quote, needs to be done and hasn't been getting done, if you had enough employees, those things
Would be getting done.
would be getting done.
Yes.
Okay. More people, less time, right?
Yeah.
It's logical, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's the bottom line, man. There's nobody out there, you know. I mean, I hate to say this, and we keep beating a stone to death, but you know, it's catch-22. No employees, nothing gets done. How much do these guys need to push to get those extra things done? Do they have the time? Do they have the daylight? No, doesn't look it. Unless I'm wrong, you know, you have put another foot.
You guys come all the time, and you see him running around, you see me running around, and it is the year and a half has been a whirlwind of business.
Well, yeah.
And it's been.
Well, the
know,
other thing, the
like-
problem with that is that neither Dana or I can really do what we're supposed to be doing because we're doing
Running the
tasks
business.
that.
You know, you look
Trying to
back,
get
like
it
you
done.
said, the last year and a half, nobody expected this to happen.
No.
Nobody.
Well, you
So
s-
it put everybody behind the 8 ball, work-wise, hiring-wise, because of what was going on. You got more work because you have more people playing out there,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Less people
And
to do
more
it.
people getting paid for staying home. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, it's the one of you
That's
know
the
the
problem.
thing is
It's a
you got to
big
get
piece.
some. I mean,
Why would you
I'm
want
not
to?
you,
Why would you
but
want to go to work
we
for
need to get
$13
some.
an hour when you
people.
can sit?
Well,
and-
we
and get paid
what
$300,
I think
$400
what we
a day.
need to
I mean,
realize is because of
crazy.
what you just said and because of these circumstances, the hiring environment has significantly changed. I mean, there is not
I
a
know
golf
that.
course out there. I mean, I spoke after the last meeting. I'm jumping ahead of us a little bit. I spoke with the executive director of the GCSAA of New England and the GCSAA of Rhode Island, as well as the Cape Cod Superintendent Association. We spoke about this, and I suggested that we do a survey, an anonymous survey. And actually, the Superintendent Association in New England has approved that the survey be done. We're going to do a survey, basically a wage survey for staff people. Whether you, and it doesn't matter, you know, you're gonna have a sector for private, you're gonna have a sector for public, you're gonna have a sector for municipal. And both of those executive directors, because the one girl is executive director for Cape Cod and Rhode Island, said that everybody is in an employee pinch. And everybody is, then this is why it's appealing to everybody to do, I mean, this survey is gonna cover Massachusetts, gonna cover Rhode Island, it's gonna cover the Cape, and possibly into New Hampshire. And we're working on it right now, and hope to have it out in probably a week to 2 weeks. And since it's an anonymous survey, I'm expecting, you know, over 75% response. You don't need to know people's names. You don't need to know, you know, what the club is. Just need to know what your employees are, how many you have, what you're paying them, do you feel you're paying them adequately? Do you have problems getting staff, and so on and so forth. And this is going to go across the 3 associations. But everybody's having that issue. And what we're all finding out is we can't pay what we paid in the past. People simply will not. And for us, I mean, we can't compete with our own town in some respects, our own other employment opportunities within the town.
So as we sit here on October 7th, we thought we were going to start this, but we didn't because of weather. We have Columbus Day, whatever, coming up this Monday. What do we do? Do we keep it as is going forward with this decision? Do we revisit this? What do we want to do as a...
My recommendation recommendation is we continue with the delayed Monday. We document what Steve actually gets achieved in that period of time. And either bring the turf consultant back or have Steve pull plugs to show where the thatch level is and whether we're progressing or not. Because if we, and I suggest we do it for the 2 months and reassess where we are. But with the understanding that if we don't satisfy the needs, the employee needs that we need, that we're gonna have to do it in the spring. We're gonna delay Monday's opening until there's time available for the maintenance crew to do what needs to be done. That's my recommendation.
I just have one follow-up question for Steve. So right now, given the exact timing of the year where we are now, right, mid-October, moving on, are there things that are beneficial to the course that you could actually get done with your current level of staffing on these Mondays?
Yes. Will they, I don't, because you're losing the growing season,
Oh, right, that's
and you're losing the time window, we wouldn't be able to get as much of it done, but we will be able to get it, get some things done. The other thing I would mention too is that, we're coming in the frost season. So once we get into that, once we get that first cold snap, any of the measurements that you're going to take in the next month or two aren't going to reflect a significant reduction in anything. You're going to have to, we're going to have to take a baseline at the beginning of the spring and then take one, 3 or 4 or 5 months later. I can get an district test done at the beginning of the season on in one particular green, which probably is, could be considered thatchiest, and then get the same test done at the end of the season and make a comparison there. But yeah, there are some things that would help us get, that we would be able to get done. We're going, if we didn't have the extra time, we would try to get them done, but the likelihood of getting a significant amount done isn't as great. So if you want to continue, that's fine. If you don't want to continue, I can adjust my schedule accordingly and go from there.
So we got Monday's a holiday. Dan, you got a tournament the following Monday, right?
So October is dead.
No, we don't have a tournament on, well, it's Tuesday, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm not, that's why I'm.
No, it's
The 19th
the 19th.
is the Tuesday. It's the
Okay.
the Division One
Yeah.
Yes,
Division
South
One.
sectional
South Shore.
playoff
Yeah.
or
So
qualifier.
Yep.
What else is on that calendar on a Monday?
On Mondays, nothing.
That
I
you
don't
know
believe.
Well, where do we after that? I don't
After
think
that,
we
yeah.
have regular play for
I got like
the
2
remainder
weeks.
of the years.
And most of the stuff is on that Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Nothing on Mondays. Moving forward.
If we delay openings on Monday and there's frost, you still can't do nothing.
You still can't do nothing, then you still couldn't play anyway.
I know that, okay.
Yeah.
So
It's just like the
there's a
situation
lot
with the
of,
rain.
there's a lot of curveballs in this whole
Yeah.
situation.
You can add bunkers if a frost is there. Right? You can do that, right, Steve?
And we've got a few of those needs.
Well, if you go,
Very bad.
the ones that you can get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could walk. You can jump over the turf and walk and edge it from the inside of the bunker. One of the other reasons I picked Monday is because I got that extra person on Monday. I don't have the extra person later in the week because she's going to school.
So if for some reason or somehow we can get 4 more employees to you by the spring, where do we stand with Monday?
Where do we stand?
We look at part-time employees.
Well, I don't know. That's his
Yeah, I got
decision.
that. Yeah, that's
Would it be
there.
better to have part-time employees like early morning?
Well, it depends on the circumstance, just simply because the majority of your work has to get done first thing in the morning.
Well, that's what I'm
don't-
saying,
so you
part-time
don't-
employees for early morning, 3 or 4 hours in the morning.
We have some of those now. We have a 5:30 to 11:30 shift that we try to fill.
If
Could they
we
raise,
need,
give them a little bit more money to entice them to work here?
Yeah, well, that was last meeting, right?
That's,
Right,
that's
the reality
the
of any
thing.
of the positions, really. It's just.
plus, I kind of want to throw this out there too. With this time of year, leagues are done. The high school's finishing up, so the latter part of the day tapers off. So could we do some of these thatching, dethatching, at the latter part of the day? So say I shut the box down at 2 o'clock or 2:30, and then can we go from starting on 1 to a certain amount of holes, and then maybe we start on 10 one day and we shut down at 2:30 on that day, or 2 o'clock.
So my guys are gonna start at 5:30 and then work till 5 o'clock at night. Because I don't have, there's like, literally, there isn't anybody else but those 6. The ones that are in, the 2 college students that are in school can't come that time of day because they're in class. The high school kids, yeah, Matt could probably help out, but, you know,
I'm just posing a question.
yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's an alternative, but we don't have, you got till November 7th, then you lose all the daylight at the end of the day anyway.
So you got a month.
Yeah, so I mean, it's more efficient to get things done in the morning, but I didn't realize that this is going to be such a, a significant hurdle.
We didn't.
We can make a mountain out of a pimple just as quickly as anything. But
We didn't think it was gonna make any difference one way, but apparently is, I don't know how, these things come up, but it's.
so like you said, John, I mean, October's basically over except for one day, the 18th.
Right.
So the
That's
18th
what I
and
was
the
getting at,
25th.
yeah.
The employee's really winding down anyway after that. I mean, I think before we would say that when we reopen in the spring, that this is what was continuing to do, we'd have to talk about it again before that time.
Well,
I guess looking at the calendar now,
this is what Ed is saying, and I kind of agree with that. And that's when we first brought it up, when we asked him. It was the fact that we'd have 2 months to see if this works or it doesn't work. And then we could make a really decision for the following year, what are we gonna do with it? But apparently, the minute the word got out, I don't know how all this advertising came in, and the letters, I mean, they were lengthy. One I got from you,
So I wasn't saying anything. Ed asked me to give a response.
yeah.
I didn't
well,
say anything until I was
it
inquired
was-
upon.
It was a lot of money, it was in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. I still have it here, so we can read it. And but that was the intent of our thing, to see if we could get a jump on that and try to get.
Well, that number that I gave you was basically 22 tee times.
We have
Usually-
3 months, but you gave me all this proverb, or even in a letter from Mr. Rose, it states that it's so much money, but that's not in 2 months, that's in 12 months.
Well, I don't know
All
what
eight
his
season
number
months.
incorporates. I'm only assuming, looking at the size of his number, he's incorporating his pass holder purchase
Yeah.
along with his group.
Which
The
you're
number
gonna play
that I
all
gave
night, I
you
see
was
it.
22 tee times, split by the 30, as I explained, 30 pass holders at a $42 value, and then the $52 value for the other times. That's all, which was what was going to transpire on that day that I looked at it when I was asked. Outside of that, I had nothing to
And it
say.
came to $51,000.
$51,000 if you were to extrapolate that out
Weeks.
using the number that I used. I didn't go and look at the 12 weeks. You asked me to respond. I gave you a 10-minute assessment and wrote it back to you. Then we discussed it further and we pulled up all the other reports, and then I gave them to you, and then you went back and did some more research, which is what we should do before making any of these decisions at any point. Before we make the decision, we should assess what it is, what's the impact financially, and now that if you think that's acceptable, then fine. As I stated in my email, whatever the amount of money, if it's voted on unanimously, go for it.
Well, I mean,
I don't have a problem. It's not my golf course. I'm just here to manage and give you my opinion as to what I believe.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, I can bring my, during the course of the season, I'll bring my guys in half an hour earlier. So if we're worried about losing 3 hours on Monday, why don't we open on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 7 o'clock instead of 8? Then you pick up 1, 2, 3, 4 hours for the 3 hours that you lost on Monday.
We were doing that prior to COVID, and when COVID kicked in, we were running out of cots, and we had 30 guys waiting by the flagpoles. So we quickly changed that program rather than irritating 30 guys waiting after the time frame for playing around and cots returning because of the situation that
Yeah,
we're
we
in.
only have so many carts. I mean, they can't expect you to have 800 carts. I mean, I don't know how.
I know, but I'm just saying that we operated
All right,
it
so it's-
as best
Yeah,
to.
Guys, it's been 45 minutes
Yeah.
on this, so do we entertain changing anything as a committee, whatever? Anyone wants to make a motion that changes, they can do so. Otherwise, we've already voted it, so we don't need to re-vote it.
The only thing I would suggest is that if someone is going to purchase a pass holder card, that there are restrictions on that card already, that you may want to advise that person that possibly they will not be able to start until after 11 on Monday.
It's understandable.
They're saving about $600.
Sure.
That's,
Right, and in the beginning, it says if the customers know in advance, they can plan and adapt or
Right.
whatever, so.
absolutely. I just said, listen, understand that maybe,
Right,
because of lack of help or whatever,
right.
we need more time to maintain the golf course. That the start times may be delayed until 11.
My thing is, like I said, we made a mistake, we didn't research enough, and we just went on a whim, and now it's coming back, and we have to make some kind of adjustment to it. Let it go the rest of this year, and try to get him help for the spring, and if that doesn't work, we're gonna have to, I don't know, do what we're doing and just close on, do that Monday thing. Hopefully, by the spring, we won't have to do that if he gets the amount of people he needs.
Right.
That's where I'm going with this, I mean, I understand that he doesn't have that help. And I'm hoping if he gets that help, that Monday thing will just go back to where it was. You
Right.
can let it go this year. I mean, it ain't much left anyways.
Right.
No, that's why I said, let's try and
Bring
see
it
what
back
happens.
next year. Rehash the whole thing and see where we stand.
Right, so, my understanding then, as of now, we would keep it as we voted it. Anybody who's potentially buying a pass right now, we let them know that at least for the rest of this year, this is what the schedule is in case it impacts their day. If there's any way to just blast it out, even if there are regulars, we can follow any emails or anything, just say these are the new hours for, to a couple more weeks, we're really not gonna have much daylight anyway, it's not gonna
And,
matter.
and that caution the pass holder purchase, that maybe
Yeah.
next season, there will be a delay until 11 o'clock.
But then we're just considering that as new hours for next year, just to be forewarned, because, right, because you don't want to.
Dana,
You don't want
I-
to sell something and then have them be
I got a
upset.
question.
Right.
So,
All right, just out of curiosity, you don't have to go into detail with this. What's the rate of pass holder buyers during, let's say, November till March?
Ask for October.
Huh?
Not including October.
Well, include
It's-
October.
October is a big month because we do the
It's
season pass promotion.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
So we've done
So-
30,000, 31,000 so far this October.
Wow,
Um,
okay.
And then in March and April, those are the heavy months. in-
March and April.
March and April.
There's none like around holidays and stuff like that, very few.
No, guys pretty much tend to focus on the promotion now so
In
that
the
they can
beginning
golf.
of the season.
Yep, and then they get it when the season starts.
All right.
And then they use them throughout the remainder of the season.
Just so those people are aware that.
31,000 is probably where they're gonna get that figure, from down over here.
That, yeah, coincidentally, that is the number we're at
Yeah.
right now.
Well,
right, so unless someone makes a motion to the contrary, then we're staying as is.
let it go this year, like I said. That's after.
You got 6 days. 18th, 25th of October, 1, 8, 15, 22 November. You go past 22nd November.
Gone.
So it's not even 12 Mondays.
No, right now it's 6.
Yeah, 6, and you can lose one on a weather day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well,
another-
that's the thing too, I mean, we lose it, but then again, we were lost if it's bad enough.
that's
we
right.
At
lost
this
it.
point,
You're right, you're right.
when
You're
it,
right.
the forecast is rain, at this point in the year, they're starting to just drop
Yeah,
off
it's
and not
just-
come.
It's that cold, nasty
Yeah.
All right,
crap.
so, that's where we are.
So do we agree that we're gonna have this, continue this year with the Monday, right?
Right.
Okay.
And let's just please just be able to document what we think is getting accomplished on those
Well,
6
that-
Mondays,
that's-
weather conditions.
Weather permitting and see what,
No, I mean,
What
I
you
can tell
can-
you what the, you know, Kevin and I sit down and plan out, I mean, I plan out and then we go over, you know, he and I go over the plan at the beginning of each week,
So
so.
I'm sure, I'm just saying, you can have it in your mind today, and then we have 6 Mondays of rain, and it's not gonna happen. So I'm just
Yeah.
saying that, 6, 7 weeks from now, let's just be prepared to say what actually got accomplished, as long as there was weather permitting.
So Steve is gonna provide us with a summary of activities in that 8 to 11 period.
Yes.
Yeah, like Dave said, what, you know, what got accomplished in those particular
What
times.
what kind of wages do you, when you advertise, you put down for wage or?
Normally, I put down commensurate with experience. In the future, I'm probably going to start putting down actual number figures. That's where everybody goes. I mean, they don't bother to read it. They go right to how much you're gonna get paid.
That's what I'm saying. That's what they're looking, the people looking at it. They say, well,
If you don't have a number figure, now this is just where I work, he puts number figures in now because they don't show up.
Yeah.
As soon as they read it, they say, if you're able to perform this and this, you'll be compensated. Now, he
Yeah.
doesn't do that anymore. Here's a dollar figure.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Right, so again, Steve mentioned last meeting, he had found 12 resumes on
Indeed,
Indeed.
yeah, we posted on Indeed.
Brought, requested 6 came in, 1 showed up, and then they said, I can't do it for 15:30.
Yeah, well.
Well, if you advertise it at write it up so it sounds like the world's greatest job, put 15:30,
Bring
you run
off.
it for a month and come back and say, I got nobody.
Right.
Everybody, nobody responds whatsoever. That's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we need to do something.
Yes. Yeah. It's like Dana saying.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
we gotta do some advertising.
It's like he's in the same. You're in the same boat.
Same situation. We got
Yeah.
limited bodies hustling.
And I really think we should have a posting in front, in the pro shop or someplace, for when customers come in, asking for help. Have the list clearly delineate what we're looking for, machine operators.
Well, man, who made not to interrupt that? Who made your signs?
We did.
You made them the shell?
No, my granddaughter made them.
Oh, she did.
Oh, we can make those.
She'll make some extra. Oh yeah.
Kathy from Oak Colony.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just tell her I sent you. Yeah, she does graphic arts. She'll be able to do something for you.
We should put all over the place, even in the parking lot, that people right in can see it on Main Street.
right on the big sign with.
Put in
front of
that
the
tree
church.
that.
I was gonna see if I could get the COVID sign out there and just put it on the street,
Thank
right
you.
there
That
by
would
the
be
entrance of the
great.
golf course. Blinks and everything.
Yeah.
I think we have another one down at the
Yeah,
Council
all
on
over
Aging.
town.
So.
Just get in touch with her, Steve. Or I'll
What's her
probably see
name?
her.
Kathy
Kathy Peterson.
Peterson.
It's
Graphic
tough because
design.
people go to Walmart and they're getting a lot more money and they're giving them opportunities to go to college and
Pay for tuition.
pay tuitions for college and stuff and they're just pushing carts around the shop there, store there.
But see, they can afford that because they get,
Oh, yeah,
they
no.
get the automatic checkouts that
Yeah.
the
I realize.
person being there, so they pull it
I know.
out to the few that they have. They can pay them $30 an hour because they say,
Well,
well,
I'm not
maybe other.
saying, I'm not saying to advertise $30 an hour.
I know, but I'm just saying that.
All right, so let's move on to this year's year-to-date results now that September's done.
We got half an hour.
Looks like we are $118,000 ahead of plan, which is great. Brainton is down from last year. Last year, as we all know, was a banner year.
Whoa.
So
Is that a 9 or an 8? down.
Don't tell that to Steve, he's spending.
First last year was 90?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, last year was crazy. I don't think you can really.
Yeah, it didn't rain.
Last
We
year.
did
Yeah,
not
it didn't-
have
didn't-
one
didn't
rain day
rain
last
either.
year. Not one. That's why I told
23.
you guys, I told the selectmen, ad hoc when I bumped into them, if you want to know the maximum amount that you can make at that golf course, last year was the max number of rounds you can push through, and at that rate, that's the most money you're gonna make there. Now, if you increased your rates and you have the same amount of rounds, obviously you make more money, but the weather was just absolutely
Yeah.
perfect.
Right. So, again, with last year being the anomaly, great year, glad to have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at a regular plan, plus 118, that's still great through 3 months. Any other year prior to last year, if we were plus 118 at this point, we'd be very happy. So hopefully this trend at least continues while we can in October, November, and
Well, according to this, we do one more now than last year, for the same time. Right?
no, 80.
Last year it was 80,000. We're now ahead of 118.
Well, 118 ahead of the plan.
Yeah.
Actual cash versus last year, we're minus 80 from
Right.
last year. Well, last year was the crazy good year.
Only kidding.
So unless we got any other questions on the year to date,
I don't have
Ed, anything else on the year to date?
any. No, sir.
Phone concerns. I know we've gone back and forth, phone working, is phone not working. I know Mr. Oliver did an internet uptime test on 2 separate occasions for the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Both times over 99% uptime according to his report back to me. So that tells us that if there are in fact phone concerns, it's either with the bonded service or with our hardware that we have in the building. So
We use Adams Communications now,
But doesn't
rather than
he-
Vonage, but it's the
he-
same, it's
But he's
it's
reselling
internet.
it, reselling us Vonage, isn't he? Isn't he just buying it and then
You know,
reselling it to us?
I'm not sure who what he's reselling us, but we go through Adams Communications, that's our vendor.
Exactly, but he's
and-
not a phone provider, he's like a phone reseller. That's
Probably,
my
yes.
understanding. Right, so he's buying the service or getting it for on our behalf, reselling to us, making sure that the accounts are up, blah, blah. So it's whoever the actual service provider is behind the scenes,
All right,
so it's either an issue there,
which,
which if we're paying him to do this for us, then he should be addressing that, or do we have an actual hardware issue with the system that whoever installed it a couple of years ago?
of which he has not communicated, that he did a similar test based upon his software of the feed, and he said there were no breaks in communications with us. And I was speaking with Manny and Ed, which at one point they determined the phones weren't working, and Ed came by and told me. So I started. I could actually use the telephone calling out, and the internet was still working on the computer as well as the credit card machine. So the only problem that we were having was incoming calls. Now, they did some sort of bridge communication from Steve's building to my building. I'm not sure what that entails and how that all interplays with the, the interaction of the system. If it can drop, if they can't recognize it, if I don't have any answers from anybody, and I'm not a phone technician, so I have no clue as to what the problem is and why it's occurring at this point.
Do we
Both
think
Chris as well as the vendor say that they don't see any breaks in services from their studies.
Did you ever hear of, no, I just heard about this, where your calls, or I'm calling you, right? I'm calling the golf course,
Mhm.
and that call will go to somebody else. It's called spoofing. It's something that
Not sure.
they attack companies.
I did get from Adams saying that they eliminated all phone services that were using bandwidth.com, and they had a list of alerts I signed up for, and I'm getting alerts, like 18 alerts a day with regards to everything from texting and
So have this guy just check it. Tell me it's called spoofing, and what it does is take your I'll call you, but, and,
I don't get it.
right,
Takes your
it'll
car
go
in
somewhere
redirection.
else. And it's directed by that because of someone that called you in the past, and they attach it onto their number, and that's where it goes. So something that,
All I know, Sunday, I called the course, no ring, no nothing.
Didn't even ring.
wow, that's,
So I
yeah,
called me and he said, call the course,
yeah.
nothing. And he
There's
asked his
something wrong
wife to call the course, nothing.
Nothing, it's just the name goes by on the
It said
smartphone and just Acushnet River Valley.
calling
And
Acushnet
it keeps
River Valley.
going and the seconds are going on the meter.
Yep.
And, but is no ringing and no answer.
Yeah.
So
And I have no signs of any of that taking place because I'm still ringing credit cards. I got internet, everything's running. I pick up the phone, I got a dial tone, I can call out. So from my perspective, I don't have a problem.
Other times was Mr. Pereira called me because he tried to call you for some reason. I don't know what it is, for a tea time or whatever it was.
Well, it was one of the ladies at the coffee
Messing
shop.
around with
was
somebody.
complaining.
Whatever the reason was. And he couldn't get to you. The phone was ringing, 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 and nobody would answer the phone. Then he calls me up, he says, Manny, what's wrong with that telephone up there? I says, nobody answers. And then I says, okay.
No,
Man,
like it was the
they're
wrong
not
number,
listening.
but it wasn't. It was your number directed to somebody else's phone. Yeah.
We have 2 or 3, while we're trying to just bring a point in about the telephone. I says, Bob called me one day that he called up and he couldn't get in touch with anybody there because the phone was ringing and ringing and ringing, but nobody would answer the phone. So he calls me to find out what was going on. So I called there and I get Dana after the second call. I didn't get nothing in the first call. And then I called again and I got him in the second call. So Dana told me, he says, well, look, I'm here alone, I'm making the coffee, I'm setting up and I'm gonna start up and I do these things so I just didn't have time to answer the telephone or the personnel to cover the phone. So I called him and I says, the phone is okay. And now they answering the phone, but this was the problem. And that's one again that comes up because not enough people.
Well, yeah, you come in the morning, you get it. It was an early call, it was like 8:30, I think.
Somewhere, I
8:30-ish.
don't know the time
So
either.
It was around that time.
Yeah, we're opening up. I come in, I got 24, 30 guys waiting to go. So jump in, start billing them out. I gotta unlock the heads, freshen them up, clean them, make the coffee, get everything rolling, get all these guys to the tee box. And then I can dive in and start, multitasking with billing out guys and taking phone calls at the same time. But in order for me to get my feet started, to get rolling, I gotta get that box started ASAP or I'm gonna be behind for the rest of the day. So the phone is sacrificed for about the first 15, 20 minutes when I get in. It's just nature of the beast.
So the part that I don't understand is, starting time you're there is what? What is it, 8 o'clock?
First tea time is at 8 o'clock on the weekdays.
So you show up at 8 o'clock, not 7:30 and be ready to open at 8.
We
Right.
show up about 7:45,
15 minutes.
15 minutes to get it rolling.
But does that give you enough time to set up?
It usually gives me enough time to get it rolling.
So you should be answering the phone at 8 o'clock. The other thing is, start up.
Should be.
And that is one of the problems. 8 o'clock, that should be somebody on that telephone. And
And
I
Steve
know
should be
that he's out for
vertical
help.
and top dressing and everything else. You got 2 hands and 2 feet. That's what I'm doing for you guys. Doing my best.
I
You
understand.
need to hire somebody.
Mm-hmm.
We need to hire, him and I have been professing that, we need to hire somebody that can take these things and so this thing can run efficient.
We're sold out tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Sold out.
So I can't call for the tea time then.
You can call.
You're gonna get one.
Nobody's
somebody
gonna
cancels.
answer the phone anyway, don't worry about it.
All right. Well, there's something, we get to, the committee's got to know about this
The
problem with
having
people.
somebody to answer is a different issue than it just not even going through or ringing. We got two.
We have 2
We
issues.
had 2 phone issues going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
And people aside,
So how do we solve one?
So, I mean,
Whoever the company guy is,
I
he's
was just
got to.
hoping that
I'm gonna have to call up Adams Communications, have the guy come down
And who-
and walk through.
And when we got the actual hardware phone system, we knew a couple years ago, did that come from
It's
Adams?
actually, you know, it's coincidentally, it's the same phones that I had from Vonage. It was like the next, like they were like a V132, and now I got the V133. It's the same brand, same everything, got the same
Right,
features.
But who provided that to us?
That was from Adams
Okay,
Communications.
then They've gotta come here and
Who?
we even go beyond running a test and say, okay, they can test all they want and say the service is coming in.
Right.
But
Yeah, but
it's
see,
not,
so
right?
here's the situation.
Maybe
He
there
comes
was
down,
something.
my phones are working. He's like, hey, you're all set. Rubber stamp, you're good. I'm calling in, you're calling out. It's tough for me to
I know,
determine
I
when
know.
that trouble spot hits.
Who does the phones for the town?
Probably.
Is it the police department have their own phone set up? Or do
No,
they-
we,
do they-
it
in the
was
town?
this bridge system was the system that the whole town uses. From
That's the whole thing,
it's all
Yeah.
carried over
all,
from.
all the way through.
Yeah,
Well,
so
that's
why
what-
would we
that's
have a
what-
different provider than?
Well, no, it's the internet that what you're talking about there, the bridges from his building to yours. But I believe, you know, it's still like an actual like phone line and not an internet phone line, say at the police station.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Was all they did with my shit, they came down and they
Set up an
updated,
antenna.
well, they updated the modem in my office because it would be better to broadcast, and then he took an old computer that I had and he was gonna retrofit it, and he got into it and he said, nah, he said, it cost too much. So he took one from the school and set it up, and that thing's on constantly, but that's just, as far as I knew, that was for the payroll system. And he said, he put a big stamp on it, said, do not turn off. I said, okay.
it seems like the internet access is not the issue. It's
No.
Yeah.
either the service or the hardware. This is the only other two pieces to the equation.
I will.
So what do we-
I just spoke with him today, and he opened up a log, you know, a new ticket, whatever, a problem ticket. So I'll call him back again tomorrow and just ask him to come out and make a visit, check it out.
Especially if this is still ongoing. You said just this past Sunday, right? This was happening. So.
Yeah. So if this continues, what do we do?
So as I was speaking with Manny and Ed, we were going over this. We signed a contract for him for 3 years. So if we decide to do something, that's also part of the play.
I mean,
Well,
when
if you
sign
can
a
provide
con-
the service.
Exactly.
You know, we
I
I
can
know.
break
I'm
the
just
contract.
saying. Right? It's
Right, I mean, you can't hold us to it if he's not providing, you know,
right.
Adequate service.
uptime and working, right?
So how long do we wait before we bail out?
Well, then at that point, to me, I guess, what are the alternatives, right? You just go to Comcast, or go back to Verizon, get an actual phone line. I know that the town is looking into town-wide upgrading the phones and the lines and everything, which would include the golf course. However,
Yeah,
that's
never
not gonna happen,
includes
it's not gonna
the
happen overnight. Right, so I think if this is not working and we can't get through, like Adams to help us out, I mean, we just suck it up and get a Verizon. You know, go back to Verizon, the way it used to be. I know it's more money, but it's gonna have no downtime
I totally
until there's a
agree.
longer-term solution.
If we're doing 42,000 rounds and we can pull in $2 million, I want to have the phone working.
You take $70 a month out of
Even
that.
even if the answer is, I'm sorry, we have no tea times available today.
Right, at least they get a person.
Right.
So let's see if Adams can figure out anything for us, and then, you know, if we find ourselves in this boat come April, when we're open and starting to rock again for next season, then something's gonna happen.
I totally agree.
Me too.
All right, time's winding down. There's a 5-year plan of free cash.
Why do they call it free cash? That's free.
Or our reserves, in other words. Based primarily on no expenses going up to 2% a year, where we are big drivers,
Right.
is how we want to introduce new equipment, debt and whatnot, I believe.
Correct. But I put this on the agenda. My question is, can we reach an agreement as to how much money we plan to have in reserve at the end of payment, the time the debt is paid off? That will dictate exactly how much money we can afford to spend for equipment and anything else, cart paths repair, clubhouse. And if we can agree on what we think is the right number. Last year, before the banner season we had last year, when I exploded this out, the number was close to 400,000, 460. As I said last meeting, this was presented to the Board of Selectmen in January 2020, and they listened to what my explanation was. That if we do the various things, leasing or buying or whatever, we'll keep all of the mowers going, we can cut grass, and we should have some left over, the 460. They didn't acknowledge that that was a good plan or an acceptable plan or voted for it, but I would suggest that we present what our recommendation is to them and get them to buy into it. So that kind of tells us where we are. If all of a sudden things go south, we're not doing the 42,000 rounds, it's going to change things. But at least we know where we are and what we can spend on what. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I know you mentioned for something, I know this was a while ago, but I mean, if memory serves me correctly, there was a whole period of time when, you know, obviously it goes up and down a little bit, but we were hovering between $300,000 and $400,000 as the annual reserve, right?
What we still right now is 319,000. And I'm predicting that by the time all the accounting gets done, right now it's going to be closer to $1 million at the end of FY21. And then I just kind of put in the estimate, what we want to spend on labor or whatever. What we need to do to keep the machines running. And when I explode that out, assuming we keep a reasonable revenue, which is, it was basically the 32,000 we did in FY19 that generated 1.465 million dollars. That right now it says that we'll end up with 811,000. Is, I guess for us, is that something we should put in the bank? Or shall we look at that as something we should spend?
What's the purpose of the reserve in 2028? Maybe that'll help you decide how much you want to have in there. Is there
Good question.
specific goals that 2028, once the debt is paid, to spend that money on? That'll help you determine. how
Well,
much.
you got the indirect cost issue that needs to be tapped. But last I know, it's $159,000. We gotta have potential at clubhouse, we want one. We got,
That 159 is annually?
correct.
Is
It's
that,
for somebody's retirement.
I mean, I see long-term, the clubhouse,
I
right,
don't know who that is.
being funded by, currently we're paying $325,000 rough figures a year in debt, right? So as that finally goes away, essentially in FY 2028, right, I mean, aside from planning ahead of that, right, I mean, that level of spending could cover the clubhouse.
Right.
All else being equal. So when we look at, to me, maybe 800,000, not that money in the bank isn't good, but to me, that almost seems too high, right? I mean, we're
Right.
here to reinvest in our products to keep it going, whether it's the people, the equipment, the quality, the cost. I mean, it's been open, what, 26 years now roughly? And by and large, people come back because of the quality of the
Correct.
cost, because we have no amenities, right? So if we need equipment, if we need people, I mean, this is the opportunity to do it and limp us through the next 5 years and finally get to that point where the biggest portion of the debt is finally paid off.
Right.
Not that we're gonna wind it down to zero, but if we, in my mind, if we get to 2028 with 400,000 in the bank, well, that's the figure that we held at for years and said, hey, you know what, that's a good safety net. Because in a bad year, we'd lose, which we never did, but if we, in a bad year, we'd lose 100,000. And you had
Right.
3 years of a cushion of 3 bad years, which we've never had in
Nope.
26 years. So if we spend it down to 300,000 to 400,000, that
Wish
gives us
that on
400,000 to
us.
500,000 to spend over the next 5 years, not that we do it all at once.
You know, just let me, wasn't there a stipulation in the bond that there was a minimum that we're supposed to have in reserve? Wasn't that was not stated?
Yep.
I thought there was something in there with regards to that.
I have no idea whether they want you to, I don't think it's required.
All right.
Because they want you to be in a stable financial
Yeah.
position to show that you can keep making
Mhm.
payments, but. So I think, we're at a position now where there's a pretty sizable list of equipment that, how much of it are we going to get now, meaning really essentially for next season, and how are we gonna pay for it? Just outright cash or enter a lease, which then they would pay the interest on it, but then it's only so much cash flow each year as well, instead of coming out all at once.
Dana, it's based on where we are, the first 3 months is behind us. What do you project that the revenue plan, where we will end up with revenue?
I'd have to go back and compare what we've got in and compare us to past years. I know that that past month was mirroring the 2019 September, but I'm not sure if the whole year is doing that. So I'd have to go back and look and see where it's falling. I mean, because right now October. What we have for, if you looked at your number for September, we were behind a little bit due to the inclement weather. I mean, let's see, forecast 282. So we did 249 last year. We did 213, and so far 1 week into October, we had, out of 7 days, we had 2 days of rain, and we got 62,000 in, but last year we had in 78. So we're down 15 already with 1 week. So I'm gonna have to go, I'm gonna have to go in and play with this, punch in some numbers and put a trend and see where we're gonna fall.
Last year's actual, we had a great October last year too. We were 94,000 ahead of plan.
Typically, when we make our move on these fiscal years, it happens in that March that we open early and a good April, or a solid November and a solid October heading into the close. So, I mean, these are the months that we make our ground on. When we're pushing max capacity, there's only so many rounds. I mean, you saw we cap out at 280 to 300,000 when we're pushing it. So the bookends is where we really make our move. But if the weather doesn't cooperate, so I'll have to take a look at it.
Right, so basically, the remaining months, October through June, if we just do what the plan is, and you're already up 118,000, it suggests that we're gonna come in at 1,530,000.
Yep.
If you took, if in fact the trend is where we're at now, and you can use that kind of number to project revenues going forward, we're gonna have a lot of money.
Right. Like, look at that April. Look at April
100,000 a year
compared
for
to
5 years.
last year's April. That's a big number.
Say that again?
Our current forecasted April compared to last year's April. That's what I'm talking about. That's where you really punch it in the mouth, so to speak. 156 versus 281.
Right. So what are you suggesting we're having?
I'm just saying that it's tough to predict. If we've got a decent forecast, and if March and April are nice, we can really.
Yeah, but I'm saying even
Worst
If we
case
just
scenario.
do- if we
Okay,
just do with
conservative.
that.
Yes, absolutely. That's
then we're gonna come in at 153.
yes, conservatively speaking. I was thinking the touchdown, as Steve alluded to before. Always go after it.
So, do we want to set a target of free cash? Somehow we need to get to the point where, in my estimation, that we present something to the Board of Selectmen and get their acknowledgement that this is a good plan. And therefore share that with the Finance Committee, so they understand it's a good plan. And then from there, because personally, people are gonna be asking, when we're gonna build a clubhouse? And we need to see how we're doing with these projections. And then determine whether we're capable of handling the debt structure of a new clubhouse. Which when we had some preliminary meetings with Jim Merritt, he was suggesting that bare minimum, talking $800,000
Yep.
for a clubhouse. So those are the numbers I'm thinking about. It's like we need to say, my estimation, we need to put as much money in the bank and keep it in the bank as we can until we can show whether the 42,000 trend we have now is alive and well, or whether we go back to the 32,000 a year. If we go back to 32,000 with the price increases going on, price of equipment, you're not gonna build a clubhouse.
Yeah,
I don't
I think
think you can
it's the rounds are kind of tied to the market. As the market is looking good, it feels good, but as soon as that turns, people, you know how people are, they tighten up. They stop going out to dinner and they stop golfing. Those are the first things they do. So, I mean, that's just common sense.
Right.
What about getting a survey of around what they charging compared to
Yeah.
us?
We are the
Why-
low ball. We talked
Why
about this
don't we get
before.
a survey of that?
We're like
And see where we
10
are.
I sent something to Ed about that.
We're like 10 or 15
Right.
bucks below
Yeah, did-
Pecor
you
at
did-
this current
Did you
point.
analyze that for me?
You want me to redo it? Sure.
Good.
All right. Yeah, I had them all written out. We were,
You want them back?
no,
And we're the low price leader in town, without a doubt.
except for the whale.
Yeah,
Yeah. Rochester.
right.
Well, there's no no comment. Put it that
You're
way.
on TV.
If we get there, I'll have a comment about it.
All right.
That's my last thought on the clubhouse, and if we move towards that for when this debt is paid off, right, let's say 800,000, things are gonna escalate a little bit, call it $1 million. We've been making bond payments for almost 30 years by that point when that comes out. The town will have to approve it, but thinking of the funding, right, if you were to just take $1 million and divide it by 5, paid off in 5 years, that's 200,000 a year. That's 125,000 less than we're paying now in the construction bond. And so you could afford the clubhouse, paying for it over 5 years, and still be spending $100,000 less per year than we've been spending on debt. So put that $100,000 into operations and equipment or supplying the clubhouse or whatever else. So I mean, if we go back to like, normal, I would not agree when you say that we could not afford the clubhouse. I mean, could we afford it today if it went at normal times? No. Can we afford it starting in 2027? I say yes.
Taking 150,000 for the indirect. Come close,
I think-
right?
I think I think that's still a fight because that's the story for another day. But that's still not the actual cost that they're incurring on our behalf, so.
That'll be 32 years without a clubhouse. I don't
No,
know.
we gotta start thinking seriously about
Right, and
it.
maybe some of this
Well, I mean,
reserve
do
goes
you-
into the actual planning, design, and everything, so it's all set to go when we're
Sure,
ready to fund it.
we gotta
right?
start now.
Honestly,
I think
Now
that's
it's
the
time.
bottom line. We gotta get all our eggs in the basket there and figure out
Right,
the
'cause we don't have until 2027
just
to think
the
about it.
design and the,
Which Jim said he would help out.
We started, and all of a
Yes.
sudden we get knocked off because a guy in Fall River wanted $22,000 just to give.
Right.
Yeah, just-
That was to pay for
a
those
piece of
blue
paper.
rim glasses he had
That-
to
that
match
was-
his shoes.
That was the thing. I mean, not just to advise us on something, was gonna be
Right. Yeah,
$22,000.
hey, that's right. Remember, it was just a color rendition. It wasn't even measurements. He just wanted to give you an artistic rendition.
You'd be surprised if you shop,
Yeah, that'll do
if you
that.
just shop around,
Nothing.
what you can get out there.
Yeah. Well, like when
Well,
we talked,
it's
when we
a lot
spoke with
of-
Jim, Jim was the one that came to the table and said, "Hey, listen, you don't need that guy. I have a CAD. We can get some basic conceptual plans and measurements, and we can. If you wanted to, you can move forward with something like that. But I mean, that's a ways away, obviously.
Yeah. It's, I think we should table the rest of this. I mean, it's long enough.
Yeah, I mean, we've been here an hour and a half. I know both of you guys have something to do.
Yes,
so-
we have commitments at 6 o'clock.
All right.
All right, so let's-
Let's take that for the next meeting and make one soon.
If I could, I just wanted to present I have a bag boy application and a work permit from a local resident that I'd like to submit for hire. So I can get him on board and get him trained, so when I open up in the spring, I can have him ready to go.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Is it?
I mean, maybe you
Mr.
just
Calvin Downey.
touch this one.
He's
Oh.
been a part of our junior
I'm
program.
leaving in 2
More about-
months.
Yeah, I
You
know.
wanna touch
You
the
guys can
I
do,
know
you
his
guys
father.
can do it.
Good
No,
kid,
no,
great
yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna touch about.
Can he work a mower?
That's all right.
We can train him.
Okay.
He's
Dual.
he's a
so
sharp
you
kid.
want to look at a date then? Or-
Yeah, yes.
November?
Sooner the better.
Thanksgiving.
In Ohio, do you have any objection?
Turkey legs.
No?
Okay.
All right.
Monday.
So that's the first one?
Yep.
Oh, let's get a few more.
Progress.
Let's put a sign up. Signs up.
Signs are coming.
Good one, Nate.
Signs are us.
Signs are up.
You
Signs is
need
pretty good. I
somebody-
like that.
Was somebody just for mornings would help you?
Me? Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for starters. And much like Steve said, I have one that just turned 81. I have another 3 others turning 80. Great guys, but these guys are old school. and
What's Bruce, 80?
Bruce is, he's turning 80.
Oh, man.
What's wrong with 80?
No, I
Hey, 80's the new 40 at
I'll tell you
ARV.
what, he looks good for 80.
Yes, Bruce
Oh,
and
yeah.
Paul. Paul just turned 81
You're
this
80?
week.
I'll be 80 in a couple of months, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're good for 82.
That's what I'm saying. What's wrong with 80?
Yeah, so,
I thought you
Every
were
six
Listen, I'm
TV
gonna
program,
apply for a
life
job
begins
with
at
Starbucks.
80.
yeah.
There you go, man.
Listen,
Yeah.
you're not qualified until you're 75, so if you're over 75, come on down and fill out an application.
What is,
Right,
what's the dates?
That's a joke, by the way. Put that out there. Discrimination.
November
For the next one,
Just a joke.
gonna be here or you gonna be away?
Should ask. I think so. I think I'm here.
So I was gonna for them, so November 4th? is that
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
Bob?
good, yeah. I don't have anything I know of.
So next meeting, November 4th?
Yeah.
November 4th, say 4:30.
Yep,
Here?
yep.
Sure.
What time?
4:30.
4:30.
All right.
And we'll talk to staffing, we'll continue with this agenda.
Sure, we'll continue with this, try to maybe
Staffing,
finalize Steve's equipment needs.
Replacement,
Well, I've just got, like I
Hartley's-
said, come November 1st, all those prices you see on that paper go up 3 to 5%. The revision that I emailed you, it's the same numbers,
Yeah.
but they go up 3 to 5% come 1st of November.
You sure?
And if you postpone your decision until November, it's likely that you will not see a piece of equipment until September or October of 2020.
I get the same warning from Club Card with regards to cots. You gotta sign up for them, or you don't get them. So, it's
I
food
get
for
the
thought.
same thing from the
Yeah.
company. We
Yeah.
got it today, we're not gonna have it tomorrow.
It's crazy.
Bacon.
Yeah, $85 a case.
Yeah, you know what we get bacon the other day in? 1 pound packs. 71 pound
Hey,
packs.
that's how I get golf balls.
Yeah, sleeves
4 boxes
of
of
sleeves.
4 dozens. That's what you get shipped.
A box of chicken wings used to be
Oh, I know.
$45 now, it's $79 that we'll pay for the last
I know.
shipment.
Motion to adjourn,
Make a motion to
Second.
adjourn.
seconded by Bob, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.